Homi Bhabha was the architect of India's nuclear program, a physicist who had worked alongside legends like Niels Bohr. He carried a specific ambition for his country. He claimed his team could build a fully operational atom bomb in just 18 months. This was the height of the Cold War. As the United States and the Soviet Union expanded their arsenals, both superpowers were actively pressuring other nations to sign treaties that would prevent them from ever joining the nuclear club. Despite this pressure, late in 1965, Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri gave Bhabha the secret authorization to prepare for a nuclear test. But within weeks of that decision, the Prime Minister died suddenly of a heart attack while in Tashkent. 13 days later, Homi Bhabha boarded Air India Flight 101 to Vienna for a meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Shortly after a layover in Geneva, the Boeing 707 vanished from radar over the Alps. The two men holding the keys to India's nuclear future died within a 2-week window. Their absence left a total vacuum in the country's scientific and political leadership, halting the momentum toward the bomb. On January 24, 1966, Flight 101 collided with the peaks of Mont Blanc. The impact killed all 117 people on board, scattering debris across a mountain known as the Monarch of the Alps. Rescue teams faced a mountain that seemed to swallow all evidence. No bodies were recovered. The black box remained missing for decades, and extreme weather forced authorities to halt the investigation after only 24 hours. While the wreck lay buried, negotiators in Geneva were finalizing the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The timing was impeccable. The treaty's primary goal was to legally bar nations like India from developing the technology Bhabha carried to Vienna. When physical evidence vanishes at the exact moment a major geopolitical shift is occurring, it provides the perfect foundation for international conspiracy theories. The most enduring theory points to the CIA. The premise is simple. The United States, fearing a nuclear-armed India allied with the Soviets, used a bomb in the cargo hold to remove Bhabha from the equation. This theory centered on a book by journalist Gregory Douglas, which claimed to document confessions from a CIA officer named Robert Crowley. In the book, Crowley describes a targeted assassination intended to stop India's atomic progress. Other investigators pointed toward the sky rather than a suitcase. Years later, a French wreckage collector suggested that the crash wasn't an accident or a bomb, but a military collision hidden by a state cover-up. The claim was that Flight 101 struck a USAF F-104G starfighter. These jets supposedly patrolled the area for surveillance with their transponders turned off, making them invisible to civilian radar. These narratives are appealing because they offer a sense of order. We prefer the idea that world-altering events are the result of calculated plots, rather than the terrifying possibility of random human error. Proving a conspiracy requires evidence that stands up to scrutiny. When we apply the investigative rule that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof, these theories begin to dissolve. The CIA confession was traced back to a man named Peter Stahl, an author notorious for forging historical documents and inventing JFK assassination plots under various pseudonyms. His stories were fabricated to sell books, not to record history. The mid-air collision theory is equally thin. Italian and NATO military archives from January 1966 show no record of a lost starfighter near Mont Blanc. The only jet damage recorded that week occurred hundreds of miles away in Rome. Stripped of the spy thriller elements, the only verifiable facts come from the 1967 French Inquiry Commission. Their report didn't rely on anonymous sources. It relied on the radio transcripts between the pilot and Geneva Air Traffic Control. The reality recorded in those transcripts is less cinematic than a bomb plot, but far more tragic. The crash was the result of a miscommunication in the cockpit. The crew relied on a VOR navigation system. Based on a faulty reading, the pilot believed he had cleared the mountain peak and informed Geneva Control. Geneva immediately replied with a correction, warning the pilot he had 5 miles remaining. The pilot replied Roger, misinterpreting the warning. He began a sharp descent into a total whiteout, where clouds and snow merged. The Boeing 707 struck the mountain at 15,500 feet. In an instant, the father of India's nuclear program and 116 others were gone, the victims of a single misheard sentence. Conspiracy theories flourish here because the truth is more unsettling. The trajectory of a state's security and the lives of its leaders were undone by a routine error. While the crash was an accident, the impact on the nuclear timeline matched a targeted strike. Bhabha's death stalled the research he had been leading for decades. The 18-month goal Bhabha had set for the bomb was lost. It took nearly 10 years for the program to recover, finally conducting its first nuclear test, Smiling Buddha, in 1974. It would take until 1998, 32 years after the flight disappeared into the Alps, for India to fully realize a weaponized nuclear arsenal. Bhabha's legacy extended far beyond his early research in particle physics. He constructed a scientific system from the ground up, one that outlived him and eventually powered the country's first domestic reactors. The crash on Mont Blanc set the Indian nuclear timeline back by decades, yet the infrastructure Homi Bhabha left behind was too robust to be abandoned, ensuring his work continued long after his final flight vanished into the ice.